All right. Welcome, everybody. Avatar Interop Meetup number 4. And usually, when we like to start these things, we like to kind of round up the news. Am I screen sharing the right thing? No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. Okay, cool. So, there's a lot that kind of happened in the past week. Stripe basically announced they've integrated crypto into their uh, payment processing, which is huge in terms of the web. Yuga Labs made a huge announcement of basically buying the IP of CryptoPunks and Meebits from Larva Labs. And so Bored Apes is not even like a year old since it's been out. This is kind of like a moment where like people were comparing it to like Ethereum buying Bitcoin, for example. This is kind of like, yeah, it's interesting because as soon as they did it, they also basically gave every owner the same commercial rights as Bored Apes and Mutant Apes. So I thought that was um, really interesting because some projects have been basically stopped because they didn't have commercial rights to use Meebits. And for example, Interleave, Loopify's like virtual production project, he couldn't use Meebits, had all this stuff prepared, but now, yeah, it can create games, films, and other types of commercialized projects with it. So, and they're also they're already rigged and in file formats that you can use and stuff. FBX, VRM, GLB, with the open source Blender utils that we use to process all of them. So that should be really cool to use in our avatar Interop experiments. And I've got some inside of the repo, which is kind of like a shared inventory that we can use for collaborative projects. But along with this, today now there's rumors, it's not official, but the block is a reputable source that they are planning virtual land. And it is Abe's kind of brought this up a little bit where, I don't know if it was official, but I think A16Z invested in Yuga Labs. I'd have to double check. But either way, the fact that they're looking into doing virtual land, and I think, in this article they mentioned 200,000 parcels is insane. That is more parcels than any other project out there. Like, that is more than twice of DCL. 200,000 parcels that they're like estimating will bring in 178 mil or something. Like, personally, my take on it is that I'm a bit like appalled at how much money is going into gaming metaverse projects, especially before there's a product, or like if interoperable open standards are basically an afterthought in the equation. That's my opinion. Maybe Yuga Labs is doing some interesting, like they got something up their sleeves, but I highly doubt it. One of the co-founders did start following me recently, and I did play a part in helping Larva Labs rig all the different Meebits for avatar usability in virtual worlds and whatnot. So I think there is an opportunity there to do something awesome with them, and we do have like a Bored Ape 3D model as a base mesh. Another interesting bit of news is Disney is looking to acquire a NFT company. Only rumors right now, but they did join. The owner, Bob Iger, did join Genie's board of directors. There's like 5 seats there, and he just joined. And Genie's is, I think, going to be launching later this summer. Last time I talked to them, they haven't heard of VRM, but they are going to let you download their avatars, and I think they're going to bring the price of wearables and stuff down because they're all being built on the Flow blockchain, and Flow is extremely low fees. And last but not least, Manifold Studio is shipping all sorts of really cool updates to their minting platform, including better HTML minting, and ways to do airdrops and knowing who your customers are, like in terms of who is collecting your stuff, not like KYC as verification. It's more like analytics for your stuff that's selling. So yeah, a lot of stuff happening in Web3 Metaverse land. Today, though, I want to talk about Ready Player Me, because when it comes to like Avatar Interop, let's see what already is out there. And Ready Player Me, they've got a bunch of skin in the game. They've been around for a while. They have 1,500 plus like integrations or something crazy like that, and it's a really easy workflow for people to make avatars, and a lot of people use them. And here's kind of like the basic flow. And the thing is, like, you can't really, other than like generating an avatar based on a picture, there's no option for creating a custom base mesh and custom wearables and whatnot. The onboarding, the flow of creating something is easy, but like at the same time, you don't really own any of the things that you're like setting up. It's a CC by attribution non-commercial license for every Ready Player Me. So, as I'm like wearing all this Ready Player Me swag and make an avatar for myself that I can use in all these different virtual worlds, I can't really use it for any kind of commercial projects. Kind of feels similar to like, Larva Labs and Meebits before, in a way. Maybe that'll change in the future. But I think that's a big blocker. And I actually kind of unpacked the GLB, and I was looking at it and I'm like, oh shit, they're using Blender on the back end, and they wrote an article about this, but I found it was interesting that they've got basically headless Blender creating and rendering these avatars on the back end, and then using 3JS on the front end, and then they have like some kind of SDK to integrate everything. One of the founders, Timu, he is really passionate about Avatar Interop and wants to work on bettering the ecosystem. They did an NFT drop where you had to hold a CryptoPunk in order to mint, and they are putting like 50% of those sales into just paying developers that are integrating Ready Player Me in their ecosystem. So I thought that was an interesting use of funds. Next slide over here, just kind of showing you the license information. As you can see, non-commercial for all Ready Player Me. That's why I don't really like them, because you don't really own anything. Like, you get an avatar, but you can't really customize it, and it's not really yours. But I did find that was, like you can see at the very top, GLTF Blender in the GLTF file. So, next slide over here. Here I am, like in Somnium Space. But the Somnium Space, kind of same deal. Like, it's really cool that they're using like a Play Canvas web platform for virtual worlds. But in terms of like owning a parcel there that you shell out like $10,000 on, it's hosted on someone else's server, and I just feel like that is not something that really is optimal for freedom and foundations of an open metaverse. Like, we can do better. If it's all based on open standards like GLTF and whatnot, you should have the option to export to something that you can at least self-host. And even in this platform we're in right now, Hubs, like, its monolithic design makes it really hard to do it on your own hardware. You have to rent out basically, AWS or DigitalOcean, something like that. So there's I think much room for improvement. The features are really nice, but so far the president is kind of cucked on that end with the closed source. And like NFTs in a virtual world, we need to set the bar higher, and that's something that I want our group to kind of explore, using trending NFTs and concepts with a mix of basically the strategy being content and documentation. We create content and documentation that can feed into working groups, and also kind of showcase and direct people through media, ideas that they haven't, maybe, raising the consciousness level, essentially. Some of the slides are taking a while to update. Apologize for that. So they
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
You can pin things in hubs if you hold down spacebar. You can click pin, and then people don't move them around by accident because it's happening. I did it a minute ago also. So if
Dude,
you pin your stuff
I
there,
know, it's not letting me. I complained about that before, but like literally, it's letting me pin everything but that. So, anyways, don't touch the screen.
sorry for
Um,
mentioning it.
it's okay. The Ready Player Me is getting into NFTs now. They got like these CryptoPunk things you pay 0.33 ETH for, which I think, I mean, cool concept. Actually, we were doing something similar to this, making something like it, in which it was like for Meta Factory commissioned like an avatar with a TV head. I know Sith Lord here is very familiar with TV heads. He has made TV heads in multiple different platforms.
I'm
Um,
familiar with TV chests too here in hubs. I have my avatar today.
Indeed, I think a lot of people overlook this, but maybe it's just on Hub's engineering team that they basically have webcam screen share as like a floating screen instead of like your robot, your avatar being this like the webcam video screen, right? We are like literally robot floating TVs, but yeah. Anyways, this is what they look like. They sold about 77 of them. It's going into basically funding developers in their ecosystem, which I think is cool. And waiting for these slides to update. I'll show you the one that we're planning on making basically open source. Perhaps for this group we could have this as a CC0 avatar on as something that people can remix. So it's here. Stop touching the screen. Um, TV head, body. But what if we also like decouple the head and the body? Then we can basically add it to anything. The TV head can be something that any avatar can wear. So I think that would be fun to explore, and an NFT that M3 like mints and can go into the treasury, um, not necessarily to sell, but I mean it's so far just a one of one, but something that would be fun to experiment with in our adventures, such as like with MetaLoot and our virtual production interviews. Anybody can stream into TV head in the virtual studio from just a Zoom call or a Google Meet, and that way we can have more people, interviews and whatnot. So yeah, just a preview of kind of what's up.
I'm just cheering TV heads.
Oh yeah, yeah. So TV heads. I'm basically creating a giant asset library of things that we can use during our Interop R&D experiments and projects. So TV Head is one of them. I have a whole collection of others that I'll show you very soon. On the kind of community infrastructure side of M3, I've been doing a lot of kind of work on, like, for example, the GitHub. Now we have a calendar as well. So in the calendar, here's the problem with the open metaverse. It is decentralized across all these different servers. And so coordination becomes difficult because then you have to basically there's all these different working groups and projects that all want to be compatible with each other, but we're all in these different pockets, that and being in one server is kind of like the standards problem. I'm gonna come up with a standard that unifies everything, and then it's now we have 15 standards. You can apply the same logic to Discord servers, and now we have 5 different open metaverse DAOs and a whole bunch of projects that are so anyways, our calendar is weaving together events that are happening across multiple different servers and communities. This season, it is all basically based around Avatar Interop working groups. So we've got on Mondays, I'll record. I don't know, but if anyone else can see the slides, let me know. Mondays we have a virtual production meetup, which is basically the writers' room where we discuss, things that we want to create during the week. Pre-production happens during the week. On Tuesday we have the meeting that we do right now, as well as OMI scripting, which is in the morning Eastern time. In the morning in general, North America. So these two kind of feed into each other. Wednesday is the Omi Weekly, which is good for like onboarding, and then Thursday we have a MetaFactory community call, and MetaFactory is kind of like where we can design wearables together, and working with different artists, and we're pretty close with Webaverse and VRM implementations of these wearables. So there's a community call for that, as well as GLTF extensions meetup, in which the R&D and content and feedback that we do live testing with in this meetup, we can basically we can live test stuff that's coming out of there, tools, give feedback, and what needs to be built, what can get spec'd out. And so this group does kind of play a part in different working groups, but we are kind of like a sister org, not really doing this spec writing work, but still an important part, in terms of content and coordination and documentation. And speaking of documentation, here's a look at the GitHub discussions. Go check it out. There's threads where I post notes and recordings and slides for all the meetups. Waiting for the slides to move. Okay, so finally, as like a virtual hackerspace, hackerspaces usually have like shelves stocked with stuff that you could pick off and use in your projects or take apart. And so for members, what I'm doing is I'm gathering assets and I'm linking them into the wiki of remixable and licensed like avatars, wearables, and animations that we can all use in our projects. And so we've got like VRM avatars that are CC0, such as Orion. It's the very first crypto avatar sold on the platform, like edition 0. We've got Meebits, and we've got a lot of friends over at Meebits DAO. I'm an advisor at Meebits DAO. We've got Vroids there and Vroid Close, especially from MetaFactory swag, doing a lot between there. Cryptovoxels avatars, Upstreet characters, Oni Forest. This is all suggestions, by the way. You can comment in that issue as well if you think anything should be added or modified in this list. This is just a proposal. Tubby cats, which we have multiple avatars of, but they're, I think, going to make really great pets. Try and not touch the screen. Okay. Ybot and Xbot. In terms of wearables, we have MetaFactory swag, in which we've already got compatible across different avatar base meshes. MetaLoot, which is a CC0 collection based on the metadata NFT loot. And so it's kind of like a progressive enhancement of metadata NFTs and alignment with a community that really thinks deep about composability and interoperability and decentralized storytelling. So I think that's going to be really awesome. All of our custom avatars should get regged with MetaLoot, and that was kind of like the discussion of last week's presentation. Cryptovoxels Wearables, which are Vox models, basically in the wiki. If you want to know more about each one, I have a section in there. Why is it interesting? And below every single sample file that we're using to prototype with, I am currently writing a little blurb about why I think we should be using it in our experiments. Feel free to comment, give feedback, etc. But I'm trying to go for kind of like a diversity of assets that allows to experiment with different file formats and use cases of stuff, and also workflows and pipelines. So all of these kind of come from different authoring environments and creation environments, etc. Animations, getting some samples of Mixamo, Heat, which has a bunch of live dancers, and try not to touch the screen. Pose AI, which uses AI and webcam. Cryptovoxels dances, which I have all the GLBs for. I've ripped it from the site. And Webaverse, which has a freaking awesome collection of animations that work great with VRM avatars. And there's a separate issue in terms of aligning with Webiverse, because I feel like whenever like I dig deep into like any kind of like avatar related interop stuff, they have the best implementation of. And so like I think just basically working closer together on that is going to yield faster and better results. And so here's kind of a look at the wiki in which you could go through that's split up into sections, and then you can download the assets underneath each one. It's all based on Markdown and open source. And you can see like why is it an interesting section over there as well. And the POAPs that you get for basically being an M3 OG or contributor to any of these is a wearable in itself. So, you know, we're using it, it's a wearable for your wearables, essentially. And last but not least, have been digging into Sobol. And Sobol is kind of like a way to visualize and organize organizations. It is really nicely integrated into Discord, and with Discord role integration. I'm waiting for the slide to update on my end. All right, yeah, so this is what the MetaFactory Sobol looks like. We have a virtual production crew and a wearables crew, and these kind of feed into each other because wearables provide basically character design, avatar design for virtual productions. So if we need like a hoodie representing such and such, we can get that made. And then virtual production crew can dig more into that later, but we are creating content all throughout the week. And so it's, a lot of different formats that we're experimenting with, from panels to interviews to shows to commercials to 1 hour, basically a smorgasbord that it gets cut into a 1 hour show at the end of the week that we shoot live, and then cut into more content afterwards. And that has, the meetup at the beginning of the week. If you're interested in joining that, M3 members are definitely welcome to join that and collaborate. And that's also an opportunity for us, if you think about it, to live test Avatar Interop, because we literally have to jump into virtual worlds and studios and whatnot with our characters and shoot live or recorded segments. So you can think of it as another opportunity to do field testing from this group. We're not just here to kind of talk about Avatar Interop. We do a lot of on the ground work, and that's how we create content and documentation. We're makers. So with that is my presentation for this week. If anyone has questions, comments, now's the time.
The list of platforms that you had on there for targeting with avatars, it'd be cool to see some games on there too. Like Craftopia, was that on there? I know that you're focusing on like profitable games, but having some maybe popular free games on there, a pipeline to get to those could reach a wider audience. On the GitHub, you had the list of apps that you wanted to be cross-platform avatars with on the M3 GitHub. Maybe 3 slides ago.
I see. Yeah, that can be a good idea for the flowcharts. Like if you're targeting your avatar to be on this platform, then this is how you do it. Like that can be the end part of a flowchart.